Cool. So welcome everyone. I'm really happy that you come here to attend the Mumbo Jumbo front-end talks. Today we'll talk about understanding and we will understand about the React compiler, and then we will answer a question like if we can forget about memoization. But first, before we jump into the topic, I would like to introduce myself. My name is, as already presented by Eugenia, my name is Thiago. I have been working with React for 3 years, and I'm from Brazil. And you will see during this presentation that I really love cat memes, even though I don't have one to myself, but you will figure out. One of my nerd hobby is to overwhelm myself with complex topics about how things works under the hood in any kind of framework, because like things are not magic and they do have an explanation, and somehow I like to understand why. Before I start, Paulo, how much people do we have online today?
10.
10? Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, thank you. Hello to online people. Cool. So I'm really excited to share one of my findings, which is about the React compiler. During this time, I have been working with React. I have heard several times that we will at some point forget about memorization. First, before we had like the React forget, and then at some point it came up with as a compiler, React compiler, and it was released like in the end of 2024. And yeah, we are after the compiler, so let's see how if it will meet our expectations. So first, we need to understand the problem that the React compiler solves for us, and then if there is any downsides of using it. And then I want to see it in simple examples, how it performs, and then I want to see in an actual application with fetching, state, and so on. So let's start with the problem. Why do we use the compiler at all? How it can help us? So yeah, we have our beautiful UI, and at some point we want some information coming in, and we want our UI to refresh. We want our UI to update it to React Suite. And in React, we can trigger something called, of course, as re-render. And yeah, as you may already know, re-render, it is cascading. So as soon as a component triggers the re-render, all the subcomponents will re-render as well, regardless if they changed or not. And yeah, you can see that the problem here is that if one of these components is computational heavy, it can make our application kind of slow, right? And to fix this, we can tell one of the components that it hasn't changed. So there is no need to recalculate it at all. And yeah, in React, we can achieve it with the memoization. And there are like several ways. One of them is using the react.memo. It is pretty easy to use this feature from React. What we need to do, let me get the laser here. We just need to wrap our original component with the react.memo and then display the memoized component inside the component that is re-rendered inside, which can be like something like just changing the state. And then if there is no prop changes, then it will stop the re-render chain for happening. And that's how the memoization at all works. So as I'm flagging this ticket to be memoized by React, when it is calculating the VDOM, like the re-rendering, it will stop and check if the prop has changed. If not, it will not re-render. And if so, the component will re-render as if no memoization was defined. Let's check more examples. Here, I just have a primitive passed as prop. And it is pretty easy. Like with using primitives, we just don't change the value, and then the component will never re-render if the parent component re-renders. This is the easy one. However, For the non-primitives, we need to take care. We need to be more careful, because if I am declaring the component, the object inside the component, as I am doing here, every time this component runs, it will create another component inside. And React uses something called referential equality to check if the value has changed between the re-renders. So it means that the function will run more than one time, and another reference will create in the memory. And even though the object is the same, there is another reference in the memory which will trigger the re-render. And yeah, we don't want to re-render if the object itself hasn't changed. So in React, we have two amazing hooks natively, which is use memo and use callback. To use them, it is pretty easy. We just need to get our objects and arrays and using the use memo, and our functions go into the use callback, and then we just pass it as the prop. So we have the stable reference. It means that the reference of this value of this object or arrays and functions will be like preserved in the memory. So at the reference, so the React will not re-render and the memorization will work. But I don't like it. I mean, it works quite cool. But for those who have worked with this, you will see your beautiful application turning into a mess of use callback and use memo. You see it everywhere, and then it becomes a bit tricky how to handle all these hooks. So for this, we have the React compiler here, and this is what it came to solve, just to outsource this responsibility from the developer to a machine and compile the code and memorize everything for us out of the box. So let's bring back the things, the object straight to the very slow component, and let's see how the compiler will do it. Ideally, we would like to have everything memorized like this, but by default, right? But you may know that it is a compiler, it's not going to generate such code like this. So instead, it will do pretty easy example will turn into this complicated one. And you can see that the onClick function, it is cached at the very bottom. So in the meantime, we have the data inside of the if statement. But what if I just do a small click and reference and call this data object inside of the onClick, and then the React like this. We can have it. So then the React compiler will do some arrangements, and it will look like this. This is a very short example. Honestly, the mechanics behind this engineering a miracle is just amazing, but I'm not interested in this code, unreadable code. Instead, I want to see if the compiler matches my expectation of memorizing the UI correctly. So let's have a closer look. We will see how the compiler works closer, and then we can ask, or we can answer the question if it can catch all the re-renders, because we know that JavaScript is very known as a very massive and ambiguous language. So can the compiler understand all this mess and catch everything correctly? We will see. So the very first example I have is low component without any property in it. So I already shown, we just wrap our original component with the use memo. We pass it, so we pass the memoized component, and we are fine. So bringing it back, this is how you usually would do it manually. And removing it back and triggering and enabling the compiler, we will have something like this. We can see that I don't know if you can see, right? It's like full HD recording, but we can see that the toggle button has been re-rendered and the slow component as well by the first time. And yeah, let me play it. And yeah, by clicking on it, I can see that only the toggle button is being re-rendered. We can see in the console that the slow components does not re-render. Which, okay, React compiler solves the thing for us, but let's make the thing a bit more harder by just adding those non-primitive values. And as I shown, to memo it manually, we need to wrap, we need to use the use memo and use callback functions, and pass the stable references as the properties for the slow component. Let's bring it back to the original and let's see how the compiler will work. And yeah, as you can see, there's a toggle button re-rendered. The slow component does not. And yeah, as you can see, everything is memoized by default by the compiler. Let's see. Yeah, as you can see, everything is memoized. Cool. So it did work with the non-primitive values. But let's make the thing a bit more harder. Let's suppose we have a slow component with that accepts children. So I want you, by the top of your head, to think about this component and how would you memorize it? Think about it. Good? Okay. So, who thinks that should be like this? Please raise your hand. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, but it's unfortunately no, it's not. It's not. But thank you for participation. Instead, what you are seeing here, it is just a syntax sugar for the children property, and we can pass the component, which is also another sugar syntax for this. So what we can see here, we have a non-memoized prop in a memoized component, because as I shown before, we are declaring the value here inside, which means that when there is a re-rendering happening, then the reference will change and the memoization will not work. To solve this, we need to do something tricky. We need to apply this code change, which is honestly one of the most counterintuitive patterns in React. And even like some senior developers often miss this because, yeah, I guess they haven't seen this, right? And yeah, but let's see how the compiler will handle this complex scenario. So removing everything back, just keeping the slow component with the children. And yeah, we can see only the toggle button has been re-rendered while we have the slow component with the children, which is cool. Like, so you can see that compiler could handle such a complex scenario, while some developers would miss it. That's nice. But I want to see like it's like in a more complex example. I want to see it in an application with state and with fetching and with more data. So for this, I am using the Lighthouse, and I did set the 6x CPU throttling because it is not a real application, and I wanted to like somehow simulate more things happening together in the concurrence, and that's why I said I know that the recommended value is 4x, but 6x seems to be good. So the application itself, it is this. It is called, of course, it's cats, right? It's called Cat Breeds Gallery. Very like creative name, I know. And basically, we just display a list of cats with image, the name, and the orange of those cats. Before I enable the React compiler in this application, I've got these numbers, and after I got this, which is good. I mean, there were some improvements, right? But I wanted to see if it could get better. It's not bad, but it was a bit suspicious for me. So I decided to investigate this application. And yeah, as you can see, everything is memoized by the compiler. But you can see that while I am typing, the components, the breadth cards are still re-rendering, which, yeah, I wonder why it shouldn't. So yeah, I decided to go deeper. So the very first thing I tried, we can see that we have the breadth card that accepts the name, origin, ID, and the image. And my first shot was, okay, let's just try to wrap it into using the React Mimo, and it should work. Yeah, it didn't. It didn't work. It wasn't that easy for me. One thing that we need to take care here is that all of these properties, they are primitive values, but the image. Actually, the image, it is an object that has URL, width, and height. Not sure. And but it is quite weird. Like, okay, it's an object, but I'm not creating it inside of the component. I am instead just passing it from an array of objects that came from the compiler. So that was weird. I did not understand at all. So let's have a look into the use query. So if you haven't used use query, it is an amazing library for React that helps you to. It facilitates the fetching and the data caching. And here we can see we have a query key dynamically, which is a search, which is the value that comes from the input. So every time this search change, the fetch is happening again, and the data that matches what has been fetched before will not fetch again. So it's cached. Yep, and I have this placeholder in order to avoid the UI flicking. So when I was typing, the list of caches, list of cats kept in the screen without like getting empty and populated again. So that's what I did. And then I was like, okay, so maybe when there is this merge from the React query getting the previous data with the new data from the fetch, it was losing the reference from the previous render, because as I had the memoization, the component was still rendering. So yeah, there was a problem with the props. So with this, we had a new reference in the memory, a different prop for React, and then there was the re-render. So in order to fix this problem, it's pretty easy, right? I just need to make those properties as primitives. So I took off a spread to have the image URL as a string, and then the width and the height, and of course I didn't add here because there wasn't fitting so well. And and after checking my refactoring, I could see that it is still like, now it is working fine. It is not re-rendering again. So yeah, that's a point for me, right? So yeah, this was the results before the compiler. This was the results after the compiler enabled. And after my refactoring and analysis, this was the results of the analysis. Yeah. Well, the machines are not taking over the world, right? The humans can be better if they want to. So yeah, let's figure out some questions. Can it catches all the re-renders? No, we just saw that it cannot. There are some things from other libraries and so on that it does not perform that way we expect. Also, in the React documentation, it does say that external libraries will not be compiled by the compiler. So it means that if you use like external libraries as Zustand or whatever, it will not catch. It will not catch and will not be memoized. So it is sort of a problem for us as React developers that wants to throw whatever library we want in the project, right? And yep. So can we forget about the memoization at all? And yeah, of course you can imagine the answer is it depends, right? Like everything. It depends if every second of the performance or every millisecond is really important for your requirements and for our application. If so, if performance it is a thing in your project, then you will not forget it. Manual memoization will be your way yet. But honestly, for most of the people, for like 92% of the applications, just enabling the compiler will be just enough. And if so, you need to check, right? If good enough is enough for you. So give it a try, enable it in our project, check the performance, do some benchmarking, and then you can answer to yourself. But most likely it will be. However, for those who do want to care about every millisecond in the application, you need to be aware that enabling the compiler will add another complexity. So you need to understand how the compiler works very well, because you need to do some like investigation, as I just did for this application, which requires like some good understanding of the memoization in React in the compiler. And that was everything I had for today. Thank you for your attention.
Very interesting. However, it was quite tough. So this is why we have 10 minutes for questions. Guys, yes, please. Who wants to ask some questions? Who has any questions? You need to come up at least with 3.
Don't be shy.
Yes,
Don't be shy.
go on, generate something. Okay, nice. Number 1, please.
Hey, just one question. Is there any cons in enabling the compiler? Or because at the end you say, okay, you need to understand what happened, but still you can only gain performances? Or can there be some cases where it gets worse?
I honestly, by my own tests, I haven't come up with any issues. I was doing some researches, and there were some people that faced some problems when they enabled the compiler, but it seems to be. Is it working? Not.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
Cool. But it seems to be something very specific. Very specific. There was one concern about enabling like memoizing everything by default, which is the initial load, because when you memorize everything, React needs to do some like more things when you are rendering the UI by the first time. And by my checks, there was no impact at all in the initial load. So yeah, seems to be good. Seems to be good. No much cons.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Radek, I think you want to ask a question, right? Okay, so give it a second.
Aye.
Thiago, great presentation. Unfortunately, I don't have a question related to the topic, but you need to tell me how much time did you spend on creating such a beautiful deck?
It was sort of a challenging, but yeah, when there is no CSS, it's yeah. Is it better? Is it boring?
No? Yeah. So yeah, it was a bit challenging, but when there is no CSS, it becomes easier, right? So yeah, I did invest some time on it. Thank you for noticing my yeah.
Okay, then a follow-up question from me for this. Why your present? I of course really liked it. It was really beautiful. But my question is, why is it so cat-oriented?
I don't know. Yeah, it seems to be like running out of battery. I don't know, but
Sure.
I don't know. I just like the cat memes, and I think they are just awesome. So I decided to throw all of them on the presentation to keep you like involved, right?
Great, thank you so much. Okay. Please.
Hello, great presentation. I have a question that I think everything kind of tends to go to, in a way, to state management because you were triggering the render from it in many cases. So you can have it on React. React query manages the state for you also. It can do that, and you can also have like Sustan or something else. So, well, in the end, it's like everybody wants to get a part of the state. How would you build your recommendation to go about it? Like, once you get React query, should you be using it for the state? But if you also have a form, you have a lot of, for example, API forms, but you have a big form and you need to manage that, and it's not really directly connected to that. So, what would be your experience?
Do you ask more towards the compiler or more towards general application?
General application, memorization.
Yeah, related to the memorization using those libraries, as I've shown, like there is no memorization for the external libraries. So the memorization is by yourself. So if you have some states from Zustand, for example, and you are passing it as a property to the narrow down component, you need to memo by yourself the selector from Zustand. And when it comes to like throwing all of these libraries into the project, it's like, it's React, right? So you need to be careful. You need to think if it is like really necessary, because when you are adding like more libraries, you came up with some like more problems, like more line of code, more problems. So yeah, just add those libraries if it is really necessary, if it will make your code better, if it will improve like the behavior of the code or the application itself. And that's how I usually go with the libraries. Thank you for the question.
Oh, nice. Keep it closer, please.
Now, can you
Yeah,
hear?
yeah, great.
Really nice presentation.
Thank you.
And nice space. That's perfect.
Thank you.
And also, I would like to ask, what do you usually do in cases like a short increase image, but in more complex case when you have 100 properties, it will be not so easy to spread them like in your case.
Yeah, that's a good question. First, we will need to figure out if we do need that thing from React query that was losing the reference, and if there is any feature from React query that preserves the reference in the memory. If not, you will need to come up with your own solution, how you will handle like the response from the API, stable the reference to the new props, and then you don't need to re-render and have like thousands of properties, right? But it is quite challenging. And also, if your component has like too much properties, it's made better to split it, right? And have like more drive components with less props. But it is quite a good question. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one more question and we are done. If there is any. Oh,
Come on, one more question.
okay, I guess no question.